There are 4 dark female personality types, and most men are completely blind to which one is controlling them. This blindness isn't harmless, it's fatal. It's why men lose focus, lose confidence, lose themselves. They think they're in love, but they're really being studied, tested, controlled. And the moment they realize it, it's already too late. Every man has met her, the one who makes your confidence tremble without saying a word. The one who seems soft, innocent, untouchable, yet somehow she always gets what she wants. You tell yourself she's not like the others. You tell yourself this time it's real. But that's how it begins, not with deception, but with fascination. You start changing without noticing. Your discipline fades, your logic bends. You begin to justify her distance, defend her silence, romanticize her chaos. You tell yourself it's love, but deep down, you know it's something else. Something darker, something deliberate. And that's the part no one warns you about. How emotion becomes the leash. How the same sensitivity that makes you human becomes the very thing that enslaves you. Because when you can't read her, you chase her. When you chase her, you serve her. But the few who see through it, the ones who stop reacting and start observing, they rise above it. They stop being the ones who feel and start being the ones who understand. Because understanding turns emotion into power, and power begins with awareness. So before you can defend yourself, you must know who you're facing. The first archetype doesn't chase. She waits. She doesn't beg for attention. She radiates it. She doesn't speak often because she knows silence seduces louder than words. Every man thinks he chose her, but the truth is, she let him think that. The siren begins not with a smile, but with silence. She studies the room before she enters it. She senses where the attention flows and where it dies. Then she positions herself where eyes will naturally drift, not by accident, but by design. Her presence does not demand focus. It earns it through contrast. While others chase validation with noise, she builds her empire on stillness. Men confuse that stillness for shyness, mystery, or purity. But make no mistake, what you see is choreography. The siren does not chase attention, she commands it. The weapon is atmosphere, a tone of voice tuned to the rhythm of your insecurity, a glance held half a second longer than normal, a laugh that seems private, even in public. Every gesture is a calculated strike against your logic. The siren's genius lies not in what she shows, but in what she withholds. She knows the mind fills gaps faster than the body can resist temptation. The less she reveals, the more you imagine. And the more you imagine, the deeper you fall into her design. Most men never realize they're being led. They think they're pursuing. They think the hunt is theirs. But what if the chase itself was an illusion? What if every step you take toward her is part of a map she drew before you even noticed her existence? The siren understands something you don't. That desire is not born from beauty. It's born from uncertainty. The moment she gives you clarity, the spell breaks, so she never gives it. She keeps you in limbo, caught between hope and confusion. And that tension becomes your cage. This is how she wins. Not through confrontation, but through calibration. While you invest time, energy, and emotion, she invests nothing but presence. And yet somehow, she becomes the center of your thoughts. The siren's power lies in emotional hypnosis, the ability to make desire feel like destiny. You think you met her by chance. You think this connection is rare. But rarity is an illusion she engineers by scarcity. She's everywhere and nowhere, available and unavailable, open and closed. You don't know what she wants. And that is precisely why you give her everything. You see, logic cannot survive where emotion reigns. The siren knows this. She feeds on your overthinking, your need for certainty, your addiction to closure. She'll give you just enough warmth to stay interested, and just enough distance to stay obsessed. Every unanswered message, every half smile, every strategic withdrawal, it's not random, it's warfare. You'll start to justify her silence. You'll start to rationalize her coldness. You'll tell yourself she's different, deep, or damaged. But the truth is simpler. She's conditioning you. Each withdrawal makes you crave her more. Each silence becomes an open loop in your mind you can't close without her approval. The siren doesn't ask for loyalty. She manufactures it. She never says, "Choose me." She creates conditions where you have no other choice. Every man in her orbit feels chosen, yet none ever truly are. She gives each one a different version of the same illusion, intimacy disguised as exclusivity. You think you're the exception, but every man she keeps around also believes the same. It's not love, it's logistics. Her web is woven not with lies, but with suggestion. She doesn't need to deceive, she lets your imagination do the work for her. And that's the true genius of her power. She never dirties her hands. The siren doesn't argue, she doesn't explain, she doesn't chase clarity. She lets your own obsession destroy your reason. You question yourself, not her. You analyze every text, every look, every silence. You stop seeing the world as it is and start seeing it through her reflection. She becomes your reference point for meaning. Every victory feels empty without her attention. Every day feels incomplete without her acknowledgement. That's not love, it's dependency. And dependency is control. Machiavelli would have seen her not as evil, but as strategic. He would say her methods mirror the laws of power themselves. Influence through perception, dominance through restraint, control through mystery. The siren's kingdom is psychological, and if you wish to be free, you must understand that emotions are the currency of control. The moment you stop paying, the transaction ends. But how does one escape such control? You cannot win by confrontation. The siren thrives on resistance. The more you try to break the spell, the deeper you sink. Logic cannot disarm emotion. The only way to reclaim your power is to starve her of the one thing she feeds on, your attention. Withdraw it completely. No anger, no closure, just absence. Silence against silence. Detachment against allure. The siren is an actress performing for an audience of one. Take away the stage, and the performance collapses. The tragedy isn't that she fooled you. The tragedy is that you wanted her illusion to be real. You wanted to believe that desire meant destiny, that silence meant depth, that confusion meant chemistry. But the truth is simpler. She was never mysterious. She was just disciplined. She never lost control. You did. And that's why the first step to power is not learning how to seduce. It's learning how not to be seduced. The siren will always exist. In every era, every city, every generation, she takes a new form, but her principle never changes. Create an emotional storm so powerful that men mistake chaos for connection, and until you learn to see through that storm, you'll remain at its mercy. But let's be honest, you won't notice the trap at first. You'll call it chemistry, you'll call it fate, you'll tell yourself you're different. But every man says that. Every man thinks he's the one who can handle her, and every man leaves a little weaker than before. The siren doesn't destroy you violently, she dismantles you elegantly. She makes you mistake weakness for devotion, obsession for depth, and exhaustion for love. She drains your will with tenderness, not cruelty. And when you finally walk away, you'll find yourself missing the very cage you once tried to escape. Because silence, when mastered, becomes the weapon of the strong. And when two people wield silence, only one remains comfortable inside it. The siren cannot survive without an audience, but the man who thrives in solitude, he cannot be controlled. But remember this, the siren's magic only works on those who need validation. If you stop seeking it, she becomes powerless. Her silence no longer intrigues you, it reveals her emptiness. Her distance no longer tempts you, it exposes her dependence on attention. And in that moment, the spell breaks. Not with noise, with nothingness. You'll see her again. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but you'll know her the moment she enters the room. And this time, you won't be the one hypnotized. You'll be the one observing, the one she cannot read, the one she cannot move. But the most dangerous woman of all doesn't seduce with beauty. She seduces with pain. She doesn't scream, she sighs. She doesn't accuse, she trembles. She doesn't command, she collapses. The victim queen rules through helplessness, a throne built not on dominance, but on despair. Where the siren manipulates desire, the victim manipulates compassion. Her strategy is older than any kingdom, and more lethal than any weapon, because it doesn't attack your mind, it attacks your conscience. She arrives gently, almost invisibly. You meet her, and something inside you softens. She tells stories laced with suffering, the betrayal, the neglect, the cruelty of those before you. You listen, And you want to heal her. It feels noble. It feels moral. But what you don't see is that the game has already begun. She doesn't need to seduce you physically. She seduces your empathy. And once she has that, you're no longer a man. You're a caretaker trapped in her script. You'll notice something about her patterns. Every argument ends with her crying. Every conflict ends with your apology. Every boundary you draw becomes another wound you're accused of inflicting. You start defending yourself against pain that doesn't exist. You start proving your goodness to someone who profits from your guilt. The more you comfort her, the more fragile she becomes. The more you protect her, the more she needs protection. It never ends, because the moment it does, her power fades. The victim queen has mastered moral superiority. She's never cruel, she's just hurt. She's never manipulative, she's just misunderstood. And she'll always insist that she hates drama, right before creating it. She thrives on perception, not of power, but of innocence. Her strength lies in convincing everyone, including you, that she's too kind, too pure, too emotional to ever manipulate anyone. That's why she's dangerous, because no one suspects a weapon wrapped in softness. When you meet her, she mirrors your values. If you're generous, she'll become grateful. If you're protective, she'll become vulnerable. If you're patient, she'll become lost. And you'll fall for it because it feels good to be needed. You'll think you're saving her, when in truth, you're being drained by her. Her sadness becomes your responsibility. Her moods become your mission. Her comfort becomes your duty. Every emotional wound she shows you becomes another shackle you willingly wear. The victim queen conquers through inversion. She doesn't dominate by being stronger. She dominates by being weaker. While the siren pulls you in through fantasy, the victim binds you through guilt. It's emotional debt disguised as love. You'll sacrifice your time, your peace, your self-respect, just to prove that you're not like the people who hurt her before. But here's the twist. The people who hurt her were often just those who stopped playing her game. Machiavelli would have admired her understanding of perception. He once said that men judge more by the eye than by the hand, because everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you truly are. The victim queen lives by this principle. She crafts her image with surgical precision. To the public, she's sensitive, generous, misunderstood. To her prey, she's a silent tyrant. She rules with invisible chains of pity, and when she smiles through tears, you'll mistake it for grace, not manipulation. Her control mechanism is emotional contagion. The more she cries, the more guilty you feel. The more guilty you feel, the more you do to fix her pain. But pain that is strategic cannot be fixed. That's the trap. Her emotions aren't cries for help, they're levers. She uses suffering as a communication style, one that keeps you endlessly involved. You can't leave, because leaving feels like cruelty. You can't stay because staying feels like slow death. That is her mastery, to make both options feel like betrayal. You'll notice a pattern every time you try to escape. She doesn't fight you directly. She simply breaks down. She becomes small, helpless. She says things like, "I knew you'd leave, just like everyone else." And in that moment, you stop walking away. You stop protecting yourself. You turn around, trying to explain, to comfort, to make her understand. But that's exactly what she wanted. Your compassion is the leash. Every time you pull away, she tightens it by reminding you of how much she needs you. This is how she wins wars without raising her voice. She knows men aren't destroyed by insults. They're destroyed by guilt. And she's an artist in guilt. Every sigh, every silence, every tear is deliberate. She doesn't need to be right. She only needs to be pitied. And pity is more binding than love. But why does she do it? What's her true motive beneath the tears? It's control, born from fear. The victim queen fears abandonment above all else. To her, love isn't connection, it's possession. The thought of being powerless terrifies her, so she weaponizes weakness itself. She makes helplessness her identity. She convinces herself that pain gives her moral power, that if she suffers enough, people will never leave. And she's right, for a while. Until the man she traps finally realizes that the only way to end the suffering is to walk away from it. And when he does, she'll transform. Overnight, she'll become cold, detached, even cruel. The same woman who once needed you will now dismiss you like a stranger. That's because she was never attached to you, only to the control she had over you. Once that control is gone, so is her affection. The victim queen's world runs on emotional economics. Every tear earns attention. Every confession earns sympathy. Every breakdown earns control. She knows that empathy is currency, and she spends it like a ruler funds a war. You'll feel morally superior while you serve her, because you believe you're helping. But morality without awareness becomes manipulation in disguise, and she knows it. So how do you stop it? How do you deal with someone who uses pain as power? You don't heal her, you unlearn your guilt. You stop responding to emotional bait. When she plays the victim, you don't argue or defend, you observe. You maintain calm detachment. You acknowledge her words but not her drama, because the moment you react emotionally, you're back under her control. Remember this, pity and love are not the same. Love empowers, pity enslaves. The victim queen's kingdom thrives on the confusion between the two. She'll make you believe that kindness requires sacrifice, that compassion requires compliance, that love requires suffering. But the Machiavellian mind knows the truth. Real strength never demands your self-destruction. When you master emotional distance, her power dissolves. She can cry, collapse, and accuse, but none of it lands if you no longer need her approval. Her storm only matters if you stand in the rain. Walk out of it, and she fades. The victim queen may look gentle, but her genius is ruthless. She enslaves not with chains, but with emotions that feel noble to obey. And as long as men mistake guilt for morality, she will always rule. But the next woman you meet won't cry to control you. She won't beg or plead. She'll watch you in silence, calculating every reaction. Her power isn't in emotion, it's in precision. You'll think she's distant. In truth, she's studying you, and she's far more dangerous. She doesn't chase. She calculates. She doesn't seduce through warmth, but through absence. The cold strategist is the most disciplined of them all. Her silence is sharper than argument, her restraint more seductive than affection. While the siren conquers by emotion and the victim queen by guilt, the cold strategist rules by control. Her weapon is ambiguity, her armor, indifference. You never quite know where you stand with her, and that's exactly where she wants you. At first, she seems uninterested. You interpret it as mystery, then as challenge, and finally as obsession. You start wondering what she's thinking. You start chasing the validation she never gives. That is the trap. The more uncertain you are, the more invested you become. The cold strategist knows that scarcity raises value. Every response she withholds becomes a luxury, every glance a currency. Her silence turns ordinary moments into psychological puzzles you cannot stop trying to solve. She studies before she strikes. She watches your patterns, your tone, your weaknesses, your confidence. She doesn't mirror emotion, she mirrors behavior. If you withdraw, she withdraws further. If you chase, she slows her pace. Her entire existence is an equation. What gives her leverage, she repeats. What weakens her, she eliminates. She doesn't date, she negotiates. Every interaction is a transaction. You give attention, she gives uncertainty. You offer emotion, she offers ambiguity. And the exchange never feels equal, because it's not meant to be. You will never know her true intentions. That's her genius. She can express affection without ever revealing attachment. You'll think she's yours, but you'll never be sure. She'll give you fragments of connection, a late-night message, a quiet confession, a glance that feels accidental, and then she'll disappear. That disappearance is her dominance. It keeps you waiting, wondering, reanalyzing every moment. You become addicted not to her love, but to the hope of it. She trains you to associate uncertainty with attraction. The cold strategist is not cruel, she's clinical. Her emotions exist, but only as tools. She knows how much to reveal, and more importantly, how much to conceal. You'll never see her jealous, never see her angry, never see her desperate. And because she never loses control, she becomes the only one in the dynamic who feels real power. She understands that control is perception, and perception, when managed precisely, becomes law. Men mistake her distance for purity. They think her restraint is dignity. They project their own fantasies onto her silence. And that projection is her power. She doesn't have to do anything extraordinary. She just lets you fill in the blanks with your imagination. The less she says, the more she becomes. She transforms in your mind from woman to myth. And once she reaches that level of illusion, You are no longer chasing her, you're chasing your own projection. What makes her so dangerous is her timing. The cold strategist understands momentum. She never acts too early, never reveals too soon. She knows that desire, like currency, must be inflated carefully. A quick confession destroys the mystery. A long silence builds pressure. She moves like a chess player, waiting for you to overcommit. Once you do, she makes her move, calmly, precisely, without emotion. Her affection is conditional, her attention rationed, her approval rare. She controls not through effort, but through discipline. And that's what separates her from the rest: discipline. The siren needs admiration. The victim needs sympathy. The strategist needs nothing. Her independence is both real and performative. She cultivates it to remind you she can leave at any time. That's why you fear losing her. She doesn't beg, she doesn't cling, she doesn't react. She makes you question your worth by acting as though nothing you do can impress her. She is power disguised as disinterest. But underneath her composure lies something darker: control as compensation. The cold strategist fears vulnerability the way most people fear death. To her, emotion is exposure, and exposure is weakness. She learned long ago that attachment makes people careless, so she decided to never depend on anyone again. Her detachment is not natural, it's defensive. Every cold glance, every measured word, every delayed reply, they are walls built from past betrayals. Her heart is a fortress, and every suitor who enters is a potential invader. Yet this same fear gives her mastery. Because she never reacts emotionally, she always appears superior. You argue, she listens. You confess, she stays silent. You open up, she nods. And in that silence, your mind starts to spiral. You replay every word you said, every expression she made, every tone she used. You turn her into a mirror for your own insecurity. And the more uncertain you feel, the more certain she becomes. That's how she wins. Not by changing you, but by letting you expose yourself. Machiavelli would have admired her restraint. He wrote that a prince must learn to be both lion and fox, strong when challenged, cunning when cornered. The cold strategist embodies both. She knows when to advance, when to vanish, and when to let her silence do the talking. Her emotional economy is flawless. Every reaction is calculated for maximum leverage. Every absence is a reminder that she doesn't need your presence. To understand her is to understand the psychology of power itself. Power is never loud. It doesn't beg for validation. It doesn't rush to prove its worth. It waits calmly for others to expose their desires. That's her entire philosophy. Let others reveal themselves, then decide whether they are assets or liabilities. And once she decides, her heart becomes law. The tragedy of falling for her is that you'll never be sure whether she loved you or just studied you. She'll make you feel chosen, then remind you that you're replaceable. She'll disappear just when you start believing she's yours. And when you finally learn to detach, she'll reappear, not because she misses you, but because she wants to confirm she still can. Her control is psychological, not because she's cruel, but because she's disciplined. And discipline, in a world of chaos, feels like magic. Most people are driven by emotion. She's driven by outcome. Most people speak to be understood. She speaks to be obeyed. She doesn't argue, she observes. She doesn't forgive, she forgets. And when she forgets you, it's absolute. You cease to exist, not out of anger, but out of irrelevance. You will know her by her calm, by the way she listens, by the way she pauses before speaking, as though measuring the weight of every syllable. Her presence feels like peace, but that peace has a price. It's the peace of submission, the quiet that follows surrender. And when you finally realize it, it's already too late. Because by then she's already gone, and you're left haunted not by what she did, but by everything she never said. But not every woman conquers through silence. Some conquer through chaos. The next one doesn't plan her storms, she becomes them. She enters like a spark and leaves like an explosion. The chaotic siren doesn't want peace. Peace bores her. What she wants is the high, the thrill, the argument, the chase, the collapse, the reconciliation. Her world is motion, noise, fire. She doesn't manipulate through patience or precision like the cold strategist. She manipulates through volatility. She doesn't calculate emotion, she detonates it. At first, She's electric. She makes you feel alive, needed, chosen. Every conversation feels like a movie scene. Every kiss feels like an event. She gives you emotional extremes, dizzying highs, catastrophic lows, and no middle ground in between. The energy feels addictive, almost divine. You mistake the chaos for passion, the instability for intensity. You tell yourself you've never felt something this real before. But that's not love, that's adrenaline. And she knows exactly how to keep you addicted to it. The chaotic siren has one principle: control through confusion. Her unpredictability becomes her weapon. You never know what version of her will show up. One day, she's tender and affectionate, whispering how no one understands her but you. The next, she's distant, hostile, accusing you of betrayal you never committed. You start defending yourself against ghosts. You start chasing calm that never arrives. The more you try to stabilize her, the more unstable you become. She feeds off reaction. Every word, every movement, every sigh of frustration fuels her. She doesn't crave harmony. She craves proof that she can move you. Indifference terrifies her, because indifference means she doesn't exist in your emotional world. So she provokes you, subtly, at first, then violently. She'll pick a fight over nothing, cry, disappear, and return like nothing happened. And in the process, she rewires your nervous system. You stop aiming for happiness. You start aiming for peace. You stop wanting love. You start wanting the absence of pain. That's how she wins. The chaotic siren's genius is simple. She turns you into her mirror. When she's calm, you relax. When she's angry, you panic. When she's distant, you chase. And when she's affectionate, you forget all the damage. You start living by her moods. Your emotions stop belonging to you. You're not in a relationship anymore. You're in a psychological weather system that changes without warning. She's mastered emotional whiplash. The cycle always repeats. Idealization, conflict, apology, seduction, calm, explosion. It's a loop without end. Each time, you tell yourself this will be the last fight. Each time, she promises it won't happen again. But the chaos is not accidental. It's engineered. It's how she maintains relevance in your mind. When she's gone, you can't stop thinking about her. When she's near, you can't find peace. That duality keeps you chained. You're either chasing her or recovering from her. But beneath her chaos lies pain. The chaotic siren is often a product of abandonment, betrayal, and fear. She's terrified of being left, so she leaves first emotionally, psychologically, sometimes even physically. She creates storms to test who will stay through them. And when you do, she doesn't feel gratitude, she feels power. Your endurance becomes proof of her worth. That's why she repeats the cycle, because every time you forgive her, it validates her control. Machiavelli would recognize her not as a strategist, but as a force of nature, unpredictable, unstable, yet highly effective. He would say her rule resembles that of a tyrant who survives not through loyalty, but through fear and chaos. For as long as her followers remain confused, they remain obedient. The chaotic siren doesn't care if you love her or hate her, as long as you feel something. Indifference is the only defeat she cannot tolerate. She thrives on contrasts. She will destroy you, then heal you, insult you, then adore you, leave you, then beg you to return. Her apologies sound sincere because in that moment they are. Her remorse is real until the next eruption. Her emotions are genuine but uncontrolled. That's what makes her so dangerous. She believes her own chaos is honesty. To her, calm feels fake, stability feels lifeless. She mistakes peace for emptiness and conflict for proof of love. You'll start adjusting to her rhythm. You'll start believing this volatility is normal. You'll start apologizing for things you didn't do, just to end the storm faster. You'll start accepting disrespect as just how she is. That's when she owns you. She's not a manipulator in the traditional sense. She's an emotional addict. But your role in her addiction is clear. You're the supplier. She uses you for emotional stimulation the way others use drugs. When you finally try to leave, she doesn't plead. She detonates. She'll say anything, do anything to pull you back into her orbit. She'll threaten to leave forever, only to reappear when she senses you're moving on. She doesn't want you, she wants your attention. It's not love she's addicted to, it's control through emotional chaos. And she'll destroy her own peace just to maintain it. The chaotic siren's weapon is unpredictability, and the antidote is detachment. You cannot win by explaining, reasoning, or comforting. Every attempt to calm her is seen as resistance, and resistance only feeds her instability. The only way to neutralize her is through absence. When the storm rises, you don't argue, you don't defend, you disappear, because chaos can only rule those who remain inside it. Step out of the game, and her power collapses. Understand this, she doesn't hate you. She hates the silence that reminds her she's alone. She'll fill that silence with drama, accusation, and emotion, anything to feel alive again. But when you learn to sit in silence without reacting, she'll have nothing left to pull from you. That's when the mask falls. You'll see the truth beneath the fire and fury is a terrified soul that confuses attention with love. But you can't save her. You can only escape her. And when you do, you'll realize that the chaos she created wasn't random. It was a reflection of your own unhealed need for excitement, validation, and danger. The chaotic siren only controls those who crave what she destroys, peace. And when you finally see that, the world becomes quiet again, not peaceful, but quiet. Because you've just learned the final lesson in emotional warfare, that chaos isn't defeated by strength, but by stillness. But what happens when you stop reacting to them all? When you become immune not just to seduction, guilt, and chaos, but to emotion itself? That's when you become something else entirely. You don't fight emotion with emotion. You fight it with distance. The moment you understand that, the game ends. All the chaos, the seduction, the guilt, it loses its grip. Machiavelli would tell you, never play their game. Change the board. The 4 dark types live on emotional reaction. They survive through your engagement. When you withdraw it, they wither. To defeat them, you don't destroy them, you stop feeding them. The first rule is detachment. The siren seduces by making you feel special. The victim controls by making you feel guilty. The strategist dominates by keeping you uncertain. The chaotic siren traps you by keeping you emotional. In every case, the trap begins with feeling too much. And so, your first weapon is to feel nothing. Coldness is not cruelty, it's control. When your emotions are no longer predictable, you become ungovernable. You'll learn to see their patterns without reacting. When the siren pulls away, don't chase. When the victim cries, don't console. When the strategist withdraws, don't pursue. When the chaotic siren explodes, don't respond. You become their mirror, calm, silent, unreadable. Power is not found in dominance, it's found in non-reactivity, because the one who controls their inner state controls every interaction. The world teaches men to win by proving themselves. The Machiavellian mind knows better. You win by remaining a mystery. The more predictable you are, the more you can be played. Every manipulator feeds on certainty of your attention, your empathy, your weakness. Take that certainty away, and their entire structure collapses. The siren's charm depends on validation. The victim's control depends on guilt. The strategist's confidence depends on your uncertainty, and the chaotic siren's existence depends on your reaction. Remove attention, remove guilt, remove pursuit, remove reaction, and you remove their power. This is how silent power operates. Not by aggression, but by absence. When you stop chasing, your silence becomes authority. When you stop apologizing, your presence becomes final. When you stop explaining, your boundaries become law. Weak men confuse reaction with passion. Strong men understand that silence is strategy, because every word you speak in defense is a brick you give them to build their control. Machiavelli wrote that the wise prince knows when to be seen and when to disappear. Power often hides in invisibility. You must learn to withdraw, not just from people, but from the need to be understood. Stop narrating your emotions. Stop explaining your decisions. Stop making your peace negotiable. The moment you become quiet, people begin to project. They start questioning themselves. They start respecting what they cannot read. The most dangerous man in any room is the one who cannot be provoked. He doesn't fight over every slight. He doesn't rush to defend his name. He lets others reveal themselves while he remains still. That stillness is misinterpreted as apathy, but in truth it's precision. You're not reacting because you've already decided. You've already won internally. Every manipulator fears that, because their entire game is built on making you feel uncertain. But this control is not about cruelty. It's about freedom. To master emotional detachment is to liberate yourself from invisible chains. The siren's gaze loses its hypnosis when you stop needing approval. The victim's tears lose their power when you stop needing to be the savior. The strategist's silence loses its mystery when you stop seeking validation. And the chaotic siren's storms lose their force when you stop fearing solitude. Understand this clearly. Solitude is power. The more comfortable you are being alone, the harder it is to be manipulated. The siren needs an audience. The victim needs a caretaker. The strategist needs a pursuer. The chaotic siren needs a reactor. When you become self-contained, their weapons turn into noise. You stop being a participant in their narrative and become the observer of their pattern. There will come a moment when you're tested. The siren will reappear, sweeter than ever. The victim will send a message that tugs at your sympathy. The strategist will glance your way with detached curiosity. The chaotic siren will ignite drama just to see if you still burn, and you'll feel the pull, because the mind remembers the addiction even when the soul has healed. That's your trial. That's where most fall. But you, if you've learned well, will do nothing. You'll remain still, and your stillness will unmake them. The man who cannot be emotionally manipulated cannot be controlled. He walks differently. He speaks less. He sees through performance and chooses silence over reaction. He's not detached out of pain, but out of clarity. He understands that emotions are powerful servants and disastrous masters. He uses them, but he's never used by them. That's what Machiavelli meant by mastery, not the control of others, but the control of self. When you master your emotions, you master perception. When you master perception, you master reality. This is not about becoming heartless. It's about becoming precise. To care only where care serves purpose. To invest only where investment compounds. To love without losing center. To give without expectation. This is strategic invisibility. Not hiding, but positioning. Moving unseen. Acting only when advantage is certain. Strategic invisibility is the final art of power. You build networks silently. You accumulate wealth privately. You form alliances discreetly. You protect your peace like a fortress. People see your shadow, never your shape. They hear of your success, but never your method. They speak your name, but never your weakness. That is true control: to exist without exposure, to influence without being perceived, to rule without being seen. When emotion no longer commands you, the world becomes transparent. You see the patterns behind people's faces, the intentions behind their kindness, the manipulation behind their words. You stop being surprised by betrayal, or seduction, or chaos. You simply observe. And in that observation, you find a kind of serenity the emotional never know. The serenity of understanding that everything is movement, and you are the still point around which it turns. So remember, to defeat manipulation, do not become like them. Become unreadable. Withdraw from the theater of emotion. Observe without absorbing. Respond without revealing. Move without noise.